sound. How are you all? I hope you're all doing really super well. It is Tuesday, April 9th, 2024. We are streaming 1 week late this month because we had the Wool Circle last week because I pushed the Wool Circle by 1 week back in March because we were away. So I will tell you guys all about that in just a moment, but I hope that you are doing really well. I hope that you are enjoying these early days, early couple of weeks of spring if you're in the Northern Hemisphere. And if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I hope that the fall is treating you well thus far. My phone is going crazy because of soccer stuff. It's just constant messaging about soccer. I am wearing a brand new hand knit that we will talk about later in the show. I'm excited to share this with you and tell you all about it because it was a lot of fun. And we are lacking a light on this side, so I'm hoping that it's not too dark. I turned on the overhead lights, which I don't like to do because it gives everything kind of a yellow tinge. But this light is not cooperating and it's not working, so Mike is going to have to look at that hopefully when before the next stream. It's kind of annoying. It's kind of frustrating. I don't like it when things don't work. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. So in today's show, I've got quite a few things to tell you about. I've got quite a few finished objects to share with you. And I also have some spins, a finished spin, which is really exciting. And I have a spin in progress that I started on a whim because I had a couple of minutes that sort of was empty-ish, and I was feeling like I had the bandwidth to kind of start something small, and I decided to do it. So yeah, I'm glad that I got into it because it's been really enjoyable. I don't know if you guys have seen on Instagram recently, after the 100 days of spindle spinning, Andrea Mowry is now doing a 100 days of long draw, and I've ended up doing 2 spins back to back, and I've got a third one that I haven't started yet that'll be the same thing. They're all long draw. They're all going to be like woolen from roving, kind of true woolen, which is kind of funny. So I go through fits and spurts with long draw. I find I go through times when I spin a lot of woolen yarns and I tend to kind of amass a bit of a pile of them. And then I sort of move back into my default, which is kind of more like this yarn back here, which we'll talk about later in the show. And then I kind of migrate back to long draw. So I don't generally do any kind of true worsted type spinning. You guys who followed me long enough know that I prefer those slightly loftier, airier yarns. But yeah, it's kind of funny how that just kind of, it came up right at the right time where I was working on these long draw spins, and I just happened to kind of fit in with what was going on in the wider community, which was really great. So thanks, Rebecca. She's very kind. She said, "You look great. Another shadow won't hurt anything." So thank you. It's just darker on this side, but I think that's okay. It's bright and sunny outside. We've got tons of cloud, a little bit of blue sky. But if it brightens up at all through the show, it will brighten up in the room. So I can't complain too much. It's so good to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Charlotte and Eve and Glenda. Amy is here. Eveline. Pauline is here. Paulina, I think it's that she said. Nicole. Sam, Christine just popped in. Lily sneaking in briefly. She's waiting for a client at work. That's wonderful. It's good to see you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to spend some time with us. We have some stuff that we just need to catch up on in terms of what's going on in the community. The radio show for April is available wherever you subscribe to your audio podcasts. Rebecca and I sat down this month and she kind of came up with a question and answer, sort of a bunch of questions to talk about how we, on our spinning journey, how we went from being sort of, beginner spinners and just getting started with everything and just sort of, sitting down at the wheel and spinning singles and learning how to create a continuous thread, all the way through to becoming more intentional spinners. It was a really fun conversation. We both, I think, really enjoyed it. There's been some lovely comments on the episode so far. So thank you so much for those who've taken the time to comment and to leave a review about the podcast. It really helps the audio podcast get out there and get seen. I hate having to constantly ask for people to do that, but it really does help. So that's available now. That's the April episode of Woolen Spinning Radio. And then of course we've got our 2-year community make along, spin along, work along on Sarah Anderson's book, The Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs, which is actually sitting here under a pile of stuff. Otherwise I would do a little show and tell. And of course you can engage any way that you would like to in any meaningful, whatever's meaningful for you. So if you're a Patreon member, you receive the monthly spinning pearls that comes out, that is previous content from the archives that we've done over the years. They come out every week on the Sunday. There is so much content back there that I think Rebecca was really right in encouraging me to take a year or two to kind of revisit a lot of that stuff and go back to it and pull it out, because we have so many newer members, people who've joined in the last couple of years, where you guys haven't seen some of that stuff. Good to see you, Lily. Thanks for being here. Good to see you. And so that's been really fun, and people have been really positive about the amount of assistance that it's helped just to navigate the archives, knowing that content's coming back and that you don't have to go look for it necessarily. So that's Spinning Pearls, and that comes up in your Patreon feed in your posts, published posts every Sunday. And then the Wool Circle is the live stream that happens on the opposite Tuesdays to this live stream, to the podcast, and that is hosted by Rebecca, and she goes through a specific topic that we've pulled from Sarah Anderson's book to spend some time doing a deep dive on that specific topic. We'll talk about that more in a moment. And then of course, spinning staples and queries we'll talk about in just a moment. So right now on the Wool Circle, Rebecca is talking, we just are finishing off spinning over the fold. So what that looks like is where we're holding our fiber over our finger. Generally it's our pointer finger. Some people do it a little bit differently, and you're drafting either off the top of the finger like this, or you're drafting off the tip of the finger like this. And there's different effects that you can achieve with both drafting methods. You can turn. It's really just a way of securing your fiber and holding your fiber. And then from there, you can match the draft to the fiber that you're holding. So, you know, maybe you've got like a really silky, very slippery bamboo rayon, and you're having a lot of trouble managing it at the wheel. You could put it over the fold and spin off the top to create a really smooth yarn. And in that case, you might want to think about spinning true worsted. So some of those discussions were had and are continuing around spinning over the fold. And then Rebecca's going to be getting into plying later this month, which is always really good to come back to and have sort of a refresher on some of the things that we need to think about when we're plying our yarns. Spinning Staples is the study group for the Spinner's Book of Yarn Designs. Rebecca's got some fun things coming up for you guys. They are meeting tomorrow, April 10th. I sent out all of the reminders yesterday, so you guys should have received those for those who subscribe to that group. And then Queries is meeting this coming Saturday. We are going to be talking more about joins. We've been looking at joins over the last couple of months. It's been a little bit longer than I thought that it would. It's taken a bit longer to get through everything. But I thought this weekend that we would maybe get onto the spindles and do that. So that's exciting. And of course, grassroots, we've got all of these groups that have started through the Slack channel that are hosted by members of the community. If you see in the Slack channel a Zoom link in the hashtag general channel, that's the channel that you land on when you first come into Slack. If there's a Zoom link, that means that everybody's invited. So Spin Group meets on every Tuesday and Thursday. The Thursday group meets, I think those times are wrong because we're into British summer time. So I really should change that. This is British summer time. Now, Eve, you're in the chat. Does that change Australia? Because they don't change, I don't think. So if you could let me know. Anyways, 8 a.m. British summertime. On Tuesdays, it's 8 a.m. Pacific. And then we've got Weave Group and Fiber Prep Group that meets every other, they kind of alternate with one another on Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Book Club finished up. We finished up Fabric by Victoria Finlay. I wanted to attend that meeting, and I'm really sorry that I couldn't get a good enough cell signal on the ferry as we were crossing from North Vancouver across to Nanaimo on Vancouver Island here in British Columbia. and I just couldn't join. I tried a couple of times and it just wouldn't connect. So, but the recording is available in the #books channel. Becca put it up for everyone to listen to. And in April, I think the plan was to do Daughters of Nuri. I think that's how you say it, Daughters of Nuri. So, okay, so it's an hour earlier for Australia and New Zealand until they change, and then it will be 2 hours earlier. So, oh, so it is correct currently that it's 7 p.m. Eve, is that right? You guys can find all this on the Slack channel, so it's not a big deal if it's not perfect here. There's always other places to find this information. This is not the only place to look for stuff. The podcast is one place, and then all of the other information is on the, so fourth Sunday is on the Slack channel. And we really try, people who are involved in the groups, we really try to make sure that this stuff is posted and it is clear. And if you ever have any questions, just ask. Like, honestly, somebody will help you. And of course, there's always the Google Calendar, and the link is always posted at the beginning of the month in Ketchup and Pickles. So look for that on the Patreon feed. And if you join, if you're not kind of ready to jump in as a full-blown Patreon member and you want to just join for free, then you see those posts that come up, and you can see Ketchup and Pickles, and you can kind of peruse through it and see, okay, these are the events going on this month. This is the content that's coming out. Yes, I would like to participate this month, and then you can jump into membership. That's the whole point. So, so we were in Tofino. For those who are sort of like have been to the Pacific Northwest, or you're sort of aware of some of the areas that I'm talking about, Tofino is on the far west side of Vancouver Island, which is an island just off of the mainland on British Columbia's coast. So we're right at, where I live is like right at the border of the US-Canada border. I can get to the US-Canada border within about 20 minutes. And so we're talking, so Vancouver Island is like right off the coast. It's quite far south in relation to the 49th parallel. It's right sort of sitting there on top of the 49th parallel, if that makes sense. And the Pacific Rim National Park is a national park. It's just like Banff and Jasper National Parks. Just as an example, because most people have heard of those. And it's a protected area. It's a Pacific rainforest. So I put together and then there's Tofino at one end of the peninsula, and Ucluelet, where our friend Kelly, who's part of our community and a very involved member, she lives. And unfortunately, she was in Australia while we were there, but next year we'll be able to connect. And she comes to the mainland quite often, so I see her throughout the year usually. But I put together a very, very quick little montage of our trip. It's just a few highlights, and I hope you guys enjoy watching. There we go. Light sound is back. I had to mute myself so that it wouldn't affect the audio through the little video. I kept it really short. Sometimes my videos that I show you guys are quite long, but I wanted to keep it just really short, just some highlights. And of course, while we were there, Nora celebrated her 10th birthday. She's officially in double digits. And she is having a very, very exciting spring. So I'll tell you guys more about that at the end for those who are interested in what's happening with the kids. I feel like some of you guys, because you've been here since the beginning, there's a couple of you that I'm thinking about in particular, because you guys have been here since the beginning, like way back in June of 2014 when I first turned on the camera, way before I went on to Patreon and all that, but like back those first couple of episodes. And you guys were there and you were watching, and then I started the Ravelry group, and I'm going to get all teary, and you guys joined. You know, I thought nobody would join the Ravelry group, and then there you were. And I feel like you guys have like watched the kids grow up, and some of you guys I know in real life, and I've met you guys in real life, and some of you I have plans to meet in real life, and I hope that eventually we can get to the point where we actually do a couple of meetups every year where you know, we travel, like, you know, I maybe go to London, England, and we have a meetup, and go to Toronto and have a meetup, and so on. Somewhere in the Carolinas, because there's a whole bunch of people in the Carolinas. So anyways, I've got kind of these ideas, but I feel like there's kind of a group of you, I'm thinking of a few of you in particular, you've really watched the kids grow up. And I always feel like when there's like a milestone or something happens, or I post about something in the Slack channel under #parenting or in the random, you guys are just, they're so positive and so kind. And yeah, it's really cool to kind of have those touch tones. And of course, it makes me feel like my community is just that much bigger and that much richer. Nora asked me yesterday what that meant. She's like, what does it mean if something's richer? Not monetary wise, but just richer, you know, to have things to be grateful for, blessings, all that kind of stuff. She kind of like brought me up short, because I was like, what does it mean? And I had to like take a moment to explain. So we've had some really great things happen in the last couple of weeks, because the kid's godmother, who's also one of my best friends, and we grew up together, I haven't seen her for a year and a half, and they were home over Easter, and we were able to get together. Yeah, and there's a group of 4 of us. We all grew up together. Our parents knew each other, because of course my dad's not here anymore. They're all originally from this area. None of us went to school together, but we had jobs where we worked together. We know each other since we were like 2 and 3 years old. Went to preschool together. Like I said, our parents knew each other. And we got together for brunch on Easter Monday, and because that was when we were all free, we were all home, because everybody was home visiting their parents, because that's one thing that, you know, still living here, everybody else comes home. And one of them, her brother's been diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer. So we spent a bunch of extra time together throughout the week. And that was actually, again, I was saying to Nora about richness and having these riches in our lives. And that's why she was asking me what it meant, because I feel so thankful and so grateful that I can just be there for her. That we've got this history that it goes back almost 40 years, that I can just sit and listen and just be there. So yeah, it's been a whirlwind couple of weeks. I'm sure you guys are sick of listening to me. Let's get into the show. A thank you to our sponsor, Brother Drum Carder. They are dedicated to giving you the very best of carding products with a focus on quality, affordability, and customer satisfaction. They are beginning to build mill processing equipment, so please stay tuned. Be sure to check out the new products on their website and follow them on Facebook and Instagram at Brother Drum Carder. Have you guys ever noticed the really weird emojis on YouTube when you click the emoji bar? Like there's some really weird emojis. They're not mine. There are the woolen spinning ones. You can post in the live chat. You can post the whirls that were designed for us for our thing. You can post these. I'll post one right now. But then below that are like the YouTube ones, and they're so weird. Anyhow, I have a finished spin that I'm really excited to share with you guys. So I've been working through my Long Way Homestead spins. So while I just kind of refresh your memory, let me see if I can bring those photos up for you guys to have something to look at while we're chatting. So I have now spun, there's 12 of these. So this is a monthly club. It comes to your doorstep for 12 months, and then after that it's over. She vacuum packs everything and flattens it. You guys are hilarious. Now they're posting all the weird emojis. I love you guys so much. So she vacuum packs every month for you so that it's really affordable for shipping. It makes a huge difference for shipping that she vacuum packs everything. And then you get 12 installments, and then that's it. So Long Way Homestead is located in Manitoba, which is in Canada, for those who aren't familiar with all of our provinces. It's right in the middle and next to Ontario to the west. And my mom's family is all there. We're actually going back to Winnipeg. I was there at New Year's, and I'm going back to Winnipeg at the end of June. And I'm hoping to see my friend Vicky while I'm there as well. So I've been steadily trying to work my way through the club, because some of this stuff has been in my stash since 2020, I think was when I first joined, November of 2020. And then my club finished in October of 2021. So I've spun the Rambouillet, the Wensleydale, the Finn, the Romney, the Tunis. And now the most recent one that I did was the Bowmont. So I was really excited. Oh, the Rideau Arcot I'd also done. So I think I have finished 7 of these spins now. Rideau Arcot, Wensleydale, Rambouillet, Finn, Tunis, Romney, and Bowmont. So I've only got 5 left. I've got 5 left. I'm getting there. I know Kelly, who's part of our community, she finished her Long Way Homestead, I think a couple of years ago, and she posted a photo. It was just like this huge pile of wool, spun wool. And oh man, I just just can't wait till I get to do the same. I put a rule on myself. I'm not allowed to knit with any of these skeins of wool until they're all done. So I have to do all 12 before I can knit with them or weave with them or do anything. Not because I'm going to use them together, but because I want to have that big pile of wool at the end. So what I did with the Bowmont, it's so fine, and it's such a lovely, beautiful, springy, high crimp, fine wool. It has a very downy feel to it as well. This particular one, it felt very downy. And it was pin drafted into roving, because that's what Long Way Homestead does, is they pin draft. And I sort of tried to figure out how to make the prep a little bit more manageable, because I find 100 grams of pin drafted roving and just having that, kind of loaf, if you will, just, unwinding next to you. It's annoying. I don't love having it organized that way. So I started trying to figure out different ways of managing it, and I had made these really airy, light row legs, and I spun them up, and the plyback test was okay. And then I did just some continuous back just to try to manage the consistency, and that was okay. But in the end, what I actually ended up doing was I spun this long draw. So this was towards the end of the spin, back on the end of last week. I ended up doing English long draw. So as the video goes on, it gets a little bit unclear when I'm allowing that twist to build up, but it's just that I move faster and faster. But with English long draw, you're sort of building up the twist ahead of your that pinching hand at the front, and you're drawing out in one fell swoop. And then you double draft to draft out any areas of the singles that didn't draft out really super evenly, and then you run it onto the wheel. And I find that if you really try to feel the wheel pulling, if you sort of, as you're treadling and as that twist is building up in that singles, and you check it by pinching at the one end and pinching just above the fiber supply, and give it a bit of a tug and make sure it's twist locked, that those fibers aren't going to continue to draft. If they're continuing to draft, then you don't have enough twist in your singles. So if you can still draw out, you need to draw out a little bit more, add a little bit more twist. But if you can sort of sit there and as you're treadling, just feel the natural pull of the bobbin pulling that singles on, I find I really get into a beautiful rhythm with this. And I find I end up with the right amount of twist in the right places for the right feel of the yarn that I want. It's very intuitive. I've done this. I've spun miles and miles and miles of long draw woolen style yarn, and I find the more I micromanage it, the more I try to sort of micromanage it and control it. I find it, for me personally, it gets really ropey really quickly, and it gets really wiry, it gets over twisted, etc., etc. And this just felt really natural. It felt really, really easy, to be honest. So, Dion, I'm drinking some of my kombucha. I know this looks like a lot, but I'll sip on it through the show, and then whatever's left I'll put in the fridge, and I'll give it to the kids when they get home. But I had a couple of jars, these 1 liter jars, that was overflow. Like, I didn't have enough individual bottles to bottle it, and so I ended up doing my second ferment in a couple of these when we went away camping, and I left them at home to do their second ferment at home. And then when we came home, we had perfectly second fermented kombucha. So I told the kids I would open one of them today, and I'll share the other half with them when they get home after school. Yeah, Eveline has a really, really good point. She said, I love doing that style of long draw, but you really do need to pay attention. It's true, you do. Eve, are there Bowmont in Canada? Apparently there are a few, because she only sources from parts of the states that are right kind of at the border, so like Wyoming, Montana, and then most of the wool that's in the club is actually from Alberta, not so much Saskatchewan, but Alberta, Manitoba, and Ontario. I think some of it maybe comes from Quebec, but she has notes written on this stuff where it came from. So let me see if I'll just look really quickly at the Bowmont, and I'll show you the finished skein. I don't think she wrote on this one. Unfortunately, the month that I got this particular Bowmont from her, she was changing how she was doing the sheets and how she was doing the cards and everything for each of the monthly clubs. And so I got a printed off sheet that month from the Livestock Conservancy, which was kind of too bad because it didn't include like some of the normal information that she normally would include. And it doesn't say where she had sourced this stuff from, but I know that this stuff is from like somewhere in Central America, or like Central North America. Sorry, that's very confusing. I mean, I could contact her and ask her, but I know it's from somewhere. And I do also know that because she doesn't do big sources of this stuff, the clip isn't really super big. So whatever she could get was what she could get. So this is the finished skein. I am so happy with it. It came out beautifully. It actually feels like a cross, to be honest with you, because Bowmont is very, very fine normally. And this is not as fine as the Bowmont that I've spun from England. This is definitely a little tiny bit coarser. But I really noticed that it feels downier. So this actually feels a bit downier. This feels like a cross between Cheviot and Rambouillet. That's what this feels like. Short stapled, very crimpy, quick to spin, very, very smooth, but fine and light and soft. It doesn't particularly have a halo. was really easy to spin. It was fast. I don't find 100 grams is that much anymore, to be honest. Like, I know that sounds very, like, I've just spun so much that to get through 100 grams, 50 grams per bobbin, it's just not that much anymore. And that's a nice place to be. I wish that for all of you, that as you continue your journey, that you know, sitting down and spinning 100 grams in a week isn't too much. Yeah, it is very smooth. It's very even. I'm surprised how even it came out, actually, to be honest, because I felt like in the first bobbin, I felt like I spent the first, I have felt like this for the entire club, all of the Long Way Homestead spins. I feel like I spend the entire first bobbin learning how to spin the fiber and like what that particular breed wants and what that particular roving wants. And then I spend the second bobbin just doing that. So I almost need like 2 bumps where it's like half of the first bump can be that troubleshooting and then just ply that on itself. And then divide up the other 3/4 into 2 piles and then ply that. Because my rule for this club is all of the skeins have to be 2-ply. I wanted to compare apples to apples. So all of them are 2-ply. All of them are being spun quite fine. And this one came out, this has been washed. It's still a teeny tiny bit damp in places. But this came out at roughly, let's see, it's about 18 wraps per inch, so good fingering weight. And in terms of twist angle, I was plying it quite tightly because it is so downy. It came out about 43-ish degrees. 42 degrees. So that's not bad. And when I was wrapping it, when I was winding it to skein it from plying, I had about 600 yards, give or take. So once it's completely dry, and this was something that I'll check. Yeah, Dion, you read my mind. I'll check once all of these skeins are done. I've been going back and re-skeining them to get accurate yardage and weighing them as well. So fresh off the bobbins, it was about 600 yards, but I don't think that that's what the finished yardage will be. I suspect I lost some in the washing. So that's the Bowmont. I'm really happy with it. I'll take photos of it later and post them on Instagram so you guys can see, and I'll also post the yarn details as well. Yeah. Christine says 100 grams of fiber takes me about a month just spinning, including plying. You know what though? It's practice. That's why I never used to be able to get through braids of fiber very quickly. I felt like they took forever, and I felt like it just went on and on and on. But honestly, it's been in the last probably year and a half, probably about a year and a half to 2 years, that I've really started to feel like 100 grams is manageable, that my hands move quickly enough, that I move through things quite quickly, and that I am able to spin relatively quickly. That's really been in the last, like, within the last couple of years. Yeah. Yeah, I love that you guys, Naomi says, oh, Eveline was wondering about whether or not Nunavut, which is in the northern part of Canada, whether or not they have any sheep or not, or only muskox, which are what create kiviot. But and Rebecca was saying, nope, there are no sheep in Nunavut. I don't think there are any sheep in the Northwest Territories or Yukon either. But Brittany would know. I'll have to send her a message and double check, because I remember somebody saying that they were introducing sheep in Yukon, but it's because it's gotten a little bit milder. So yeah. Oh, Rebecca says, dude, March of 2020, you bought 8 ounces of blue from Lynn, that West Coast color, and I watched you sit there and spin it in like 5 minutes. I remember that blue. She called it effing Pantone because she was so ticked about what was going on and people's reactions, and she took it all out on dyeing a whole bunch of the color that way. The colorway that year from Pantone was this blue that she couldn't recreate. And yeah. So funny. Oh yes, that's right. There's horses in Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories. James actually just did a huge project at school on the gold mine that had closed down back in the 30s in Yellowknife, and the reciprocal effects from that. And he found it so interesting, and we were supposed to go to Yellowknife a couple of summers ago, and it didn't work out because they were still closed down and still dealing with pandemic stuff. And it made me wish that we had been able to go, and we'll go in the next couple of summers. But yeah, it was just very timely. All right, let's talk about my spin in progress that I kind of started on a whim, but some of you will probably recognize the fiber just from me talking about it last time. So this is my Castlemilk moorit. Becca sent this to me years ago, back in 2019, and I feel really badly that I hadn't done anything with it at the time. But I know I've asked people in the past, just if you send me fiber, be really patient because it's not going to get spun right away. This color is incredible, and I'm so thankful that I had it in my stash, that it was something that I had an opportunity to play with, because it was such a thoughtful thing for Becca to send it to me, and I just love this brown. So what this looked like initially, we'll come back to this screen in just a moment, but what this looked like initially was, let me see if I can find the right photo. So this was it initially, and I had it in a Ziploc bag that Becca had sent it in, and I had really just made sure that it was stored properly. And I pulled it out one day when I was looking through my bins for other stuff, and I started kind of pulling it apart and kind of looking at it, and I was like, oh, it's really short stapled. Do I really feel like doing that right now? Do I have the bandwidth for that? Blah, 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 blah. It's been a really busy year this year, and I'm not complaining. It's been kind of one thing after another. And I pulled it out and I thought, it's not a huge amount of fiber. This will probably make a couple of bats really beautifully, and I can just card it up. I'll put it back in the Ziploc bag. I know that it's there, and I can just spin it when I want. And maybe I won't put it away. I'll just put it off to the side. Well, of course, I know what happens when I do that is that it immediately gets spun. So I passed it through the drum carder. I talked about this last show under fiber preparation, so I won't talk about it in the detail that we did last show. But if you want to know more about this and prepping this fiber, go back to episode 287, which is the last episode. And this was the first pass off the drum carder. And then this was the fourth pass off the drum carder. So pretty different. And then these were them side by side. I took the one and I kept carding it so that I would have that comparison. I was really happy with how these came out. And you can see that after the fifth pass, these little nests that came off were just lovely. And they're smooth, and they're bouncy, and they're springy, and they're very downy. And they do pre-draft a little bit just to kind of open them up a little bit. They've been compacted a little bit just from sitting for a couple of weeks, but like we're talking about pretty minor. There's no VM in this that's left. There was a little bit left from the drum when I was drum carding, but like that's all gone. You can see how, it's just beautiful. Very bouncy, springy, downy. And Castlemilk moorit is a very short stapled wool. And so I sat down and started spinning it, planning and aiming to spin long draw. I knew that this would want to spin long draw, and that's exactly what I got. So very light, lofty, airy. I can show you guys, this might not be, I finished this bobbin a couple of days ago. Let me see if I can find the end. I'm not sure if it'll give you an accurate plyback test because it has been resting and it has been sitting. Yeah, it's not super accurate, but this is kind of what the wool, what it'll look like. And if I tighten this up a little bit, which is what I'll do in the plying, that's kind of what it'll look like when it's plied. Just really true woolen, in the sense, very elastic, very elastic. I'm pulling this about an inch, and even with a little bit more ply twist, it'll spring even a bit more. It'll be a trick to find that balance, to find that midpoint where you put in too much ply twist and you lose all elasticity because you've basically just taken all of that ability for the fibers to bounce and spring, and then underplying it where you end up with sort of a yarn that you know, just sort of a little bit lackadaisical, doesn't really have any kind of oomph to it. So somewhere in the middle, that ply twist around, I suspect it'll be sort of around 35, 40 degrees, where it'll just create this really, really beautiful yarn. It'll be woolen and airy and light and a beautiful natural brown color, which is just wonderful. Apparently, as Castlemilk moorits, as they age, they do go more and more gray. But I think that this will just be really, really gorgeous when it's finished. And I had about 4 of these nests. So I've started the second bobbin. I've got 3 more to go. 4 nests in total. They spin up relatively quickly because it's long draw. And yeah, so I did do passes on the drum carder. I did 5 because I did 4 for the bats to create the bats. I just divided the fiber in half, just eyeballed it. I didn't weigh it. And then from there, once I had the bat through the 4th time, then I divided it into 4 sections. I didn't weigh, I didn't worry about it being even, nothing like that. And then I just put it through a 5th time to create these little nests. And then I just wrapped them up into little batlings. So really straightforward, really simple. And I'm really happy with the results. Okay, let's see where we're at. I think we're at the point where we probably need to talk about some finished objects because I've got 2 sweaters to talk about. I'm excited to talk about them. And then we'll try to get to community participation. So let's do finished knitted objects next. I do have a work in progress. Actually, let's talk about that first. No, let's save that for after. Okay, let's talk about finished stuff. You know what? Actually, Sam, that's a really good point. She said, remember that this will be very warm. Her caribou jumper is really cozy because I was thinking about using this as a contrast color in something. I don't quite have enough. I could do mittens or something. I would have enough for that if I had 2 colors. But I was thinking about the yoke of a sweater and putting it with something else that's spun woolen that's really light and lofty and bouncy that kind of matches it. Something something from my stash to spin or something that I've already spun. And yeah, I'll have to, I thought keeping it natural colors. Yeah, I have all these kind of ideas in my head. What I really need to do this summer when the weather's beautiful and I can kind of spread out outside is put down a big tarp. Like Mike's got a couple of drop cloths that I could use and just put it out and then dump all of my hand spun yarn out and start organizing some projects of stuff that I want to work on over the next year or so, because I have all these ideas floating in my head and I know that I've spun the yarn for them, but I need to actually pull it out, check yardage, check for, you know, any little pesties that maybe got in there, which I don't think so because I've been checking regularly and there hasn't been any sign of anything. But get accurate yardage, skein up some stuff that needs to be re-skeined and freshened up a little bit, maybe washed some of my really old skeins of stuff, and then start kind of relegating stuff to being, to actually like mapping out the projects that I want to do. Because, but I need space for that. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about finished objects. So let's pull Field Day up. So this is my capstone, my first capstone. So capstone came out of Year of Color last year, and it was something that we talked about a lot in the community coming out of Year of Color. I'm just gonna move this other camera out of the way because we don't need it anymore. I'm always worried that I'm going to bang it. I never move it. I never take the time to move it. And then I'm always worried that I'm going to bang it as I'm like moving around. So I thought, no, let's move it. So I took these 3 colors, very primary colors. I carded them up. I did 50-50 white to color. That's what it looked like on the bobbin. And then this was the finished yarn. I spun quite a lot of yarn. I ended up using in the project about 900, between 850 and 900 yards of yarn. This little skein that's photoed here, we talked about last show. I had to keep spinning it because I needed more yarn to finish off the second sleeve. and that worked really well. It is a teeny tiny bit darker. Now that it's washed and blocked, you can't tell. It's actually really quite incredible, like what ended up not showing through in the end. And I'm really actually quite amazed at sort of, you know, what is actually hidden in the yarn. So let's go to here. I'm just gonna add I always get asked about the pattern information, and I just want to have it on the screen for you guys while I'm talking, so that anybody who's kind of coming in late or maybe skipping around or trying to find specific information, the pattern information is right here, and then you can see what I'm talking about. So this is Field Day. We're starting at the bottom today and working our way up, by Ozetta or Haley Smedley. So let me just move back a little bit. And I'm excited to share this one with you. So this cardigan is actually very interesting in the way that it's made, because you actually cast on at the top at the back here. If you guys can't hear me really super well, just let me know. But you cast on at the back here, and you actually do short rows and short row shaping down the back here to create that drop shoulder, rather than like with this cardigan that I'm wearing, you work from the bottom up and do a 3 needle bind off. This drop shoulder, you're actually working from the top down, which I kind of liked. It also meant that you could try it on while you're knitting, which makes a big difference, because I finished the back here and I was like, oh, I don't know if this is gonna fit me. It felt really big, and it also felt, because of this shaping up here, it felt really small. And I was like, I'm not sure this is gonna work. So I could put it on. Then you pick up stitches across your shoulder seam, and of course this is a drop shoulder, so you're picking up all the way down here. It's a true drop, and I'll put it on for you guys in just a sec, but it's easier to talk about it when it's on Diana. And then the same thing on the other side. Now, as I was knitting down, and then you knit your fronts, and then of course you attach everything and work the body. I was really worried about this line here. In real life, off camera, you actually can't really see it. It actually matches up quite well with the sleeves. And this line here is in real life, is actually like, you basically can't see it. The camera just is picking it up for contrast. And the back, there was kind of this really obvious line here on the back, and I was like, oh, I don't know, this doesn't look great. You can, in real life, you can't see it. It looks like it's the way that the sweater is supposed to be. In some ways, it has like it kind of looks like it's a bit of a gradient, a little bit. But honestly, again, you really can't see. The only modification that I made, I did knit it longer. So the pattern, the sweater is supposed to be about this long. It's supposed to be more of a cropped cardigan, and she buttons it up and actually tucks it in the photos, which I think is so cute. I am so long torsoed that I just need that added length, and so I added 2 inches for a total of about 15 inches of length from the underarms. And I did the same on this as well, and you can see that even then I probably could have lengthened it a tiny bit. Just to bring it, I actually think this one's looking at it now, never mind, it's good. I wouldn't probably want it that much longer. The only thing that I need to do is buttons. I only have this much left. That's all I have, so it's not enough to do one of those buttons where you make them yourself, unless I actually spin more yarn. I don't want to do that. I'm done. I have a bobbin full of the singles left because I only plied a little bit of it because I only wanted what I needed for the sleeve. So I do have a bobbin left of the contrast singles, the actual blended fiber that I'm just going to ply back on itself and do a center pull ball from. I maybe would have yardage from that to do buttons to make the ones that we were talking about last time. Are they called Dorset buttons? What were they called? Dorset buttons, I think, right? But I think I'll try and find actual buttons. I have to go into my local yarn shop in the next few weeks anyways, and I thought maybe I would have a look in there. I'm really low on buttons. The other modification that I made in the pattern, she calls for just a very straightforward cast off. I did a tubular cast off. And I think in this pattern, in this situation, with the amount of ribbing, the amount of 1x1 ribbing, it really finishes off the sweater really nicely. And I'm glad that I took that time, because at the bottom here, like even when I'm just looking at it, it just looks really nice. So that, yeah, Dorset buttons. Thanks, you guys. So that is field day. And I'll put it on. Everybody always wants to see it on me, and I'm matching my, me and Diana are wearing the same thing today. That was not planned. But you guys can see here. I know it's one thing to see it on the dress form. It's another thing to see it on me, which I totally understand. So this is what it looks like. I'm really happy with it, and I can button it up if I want to. It's got a lot of positive ease. And it's not tight on the arms at all. The nice drop shoulder. It just feels like it fits really nicely. I would highly recommend this pattern. Highly recommend this pattern. I really like the short rows at the top because it lifts up the back of the sweater, which we'll talk about in a moment. So this is Winter's Beach. So I have been working on this for a long time as well. I think I kind of started these two at roughly the same time. Everything kind of got cast on at like the same time. I was working on snow crocus, and what else was I working on? Snow crocus, this, and there was a fourth one that I also finished. It's gone. What was it? Help me out. I'm actually really happy with how this turned out. I've worn it a couple of times already, which is, that says a lot. When I wear something right away, it usually means that it's a success. You go back and you seam the buttons and or the pockets and sew those on. I'm really happy with how those turned out. I don't know if you guys will remember seeing the lines of, it was yellow and orange. There was all that those threads that were here, and I got the question a couple of times, like, what's that for? It's for afterthought pockets. So the inside is stockinette here, and then you do the ribbing and you tack down the pocket on the wrong side, and then Bob's your uncle, you've got a pocket. There's obviously one on either side. I thought that these would take forever, so I did not take this project with me to Tofino. It was kind of one of those things where all I had left to do was the pocket lining itself, and I thought, oh, it's fiddly. I don't really want to do that in the trailer. I don't know if I should bring all the stuff to do it, which is so silly because I was taking it all anyways, because it's tapestry needle and ring and row markers, you know, the ones that open and close. And honestly, I did this like in an hour the afternoon that we got home. So I should have just taken it and just done it, but I left it at home. Part of it was space. I just didn't want to drag one more thing. I was also really concerned there were areas of this yarn, because it had been sitting in my stash for a bit and the moths had gotten to one or two of the skeins. There were some areas that were where it broke or it was really thin and I didn't catch it in time, and I was worried that about the integrity of the fabric. So I did wash it in quite warm water, and I did spin dry it, and I had talked about maybe putting it in the dryer, but so far it actually came out really, really nicely. The finished fabric, oh, see, there's a hole. I knew it. There's a hole there where it's come apart. So I'm gonna have to fix that. So that's what I was concerned about. I knew there was a couple of spots, one on the back and one on the front, that I've already fixed, where the yarn was just a little bit thin, and I caught it after, like rows after, where, yeah, the other hole is here. So I fixed this one, but it looks like it's come apart again. So the yarn was very, very, very low twist. Not a particularly strong yarn. When I was knitting with it, like if I had held it any tighter, I could break it. It's Estelle Yarns Eco Tweed DK, and I was knitting this on 4mm needles, 3.5mm needles for the ribbing at the bottom, and then you do 8 inches of ribbing on the cuff, and then you fold back the hem. So that's how it's meant to be worn. The one thing I will say about this sweater is that there's no short rows up here. So the sweater actually sits quite low on the back of the neck. And if you wear it up high, it kind of creates this like, because there's extra fabric and it's meant to be worn with lots of positive ease. I knit size 2. Like it kind of creates like this pleating here. Whereas when you wear it down, it like falls properly, which is really lovely. But it does kind of, it just doesn't sit as high up on the back of the neck like what I sort of prefer. But if that's my biggest complaint, I mean, you could work a couple of extra short rows up here before you do the cast off. And I talked about this last show. I did do a 3 needle bind off at the back neck here rather than just a straight bind off. And I can see that because of the weight of the sweater and the pulling at the front, I'm glad that I did that just to reinforce it a little bit more. So yeah, so I'll have to go back and fix that. I kind of knew that that would happen. I may still need to put this into a really hot bath and give it a bit of a tumble dry, just to kind of toughen up this yarn a little bit. It probably needed to be knit a little bit tighter, like a little bit more of a dense fabric, but I didn't have enough skeins of yarn to be able to do that. So I wouldn't have had enough to finish the sweater, and I also wouldn't have had gauge, so that would have really affected the sweater and how I did. So yeah, super annoying. If it makes you guys feel any better, the yarn's been discontinued, so there's that. Somebody else actually in Ravelry posted a project. They used this same yarn, and their sweater is really pretty too. It really makes a really nice, it's good for this project. It suits this project. It works well for this project. But I will have to fix the holes. Oh, I shouldn't have put Diana away. I have one more thing to show you. So let me grab her back and I'll show you guys what I did while we were away. Okay, I'm really excited to share this with you guys. There is a theme here today though. The theme is sweaters need short rows. Sweaters need short rows. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. So I'm sorry for the black skirt and the black sweater. Hopefully it's not too hard for you guys to see. And I'll move my chair out of the way in just a moment, but let me just turn this. I put it on a bit twisty. So I cast this on when we hopped on the ferry on our way to Tofino. And it's Junction by Andrew Mowry. And let me bring it a little bit closer. It is my hand spun. So the contrast color up here in the brioche, I'll show you photos of the skeins in just a moment. I spun back in 2019. It's organic Polworth, and it's also this down here. And it's Smith and You, and I think she's still dyeing, but I'll show you the photos of the finished skein in just a moment. And we had talked in previous episodes about the swatching process that I used for this. I thought that another skein of yarn would be the one that I would go with for this sweater. But against the black, it didn't work quite as well as this did. And I think part of the reason why this works so well is because of the higher contrast. It's a lighter value yarn. It's got some beautiful, it's mostly greeny blue, but it's got some gorgeous kind of goldy yellows in there. And it just, against the black, it's you can really see it. In real life, this isn't quite as stark as what's coming up on the camera. It looks a bit more stark on the camera than it does in real life. It's a little bit softer and a little bit gentler. This just looks a bit, I think it's because the camera's having trouble with the black. But what I was going to say about the short rows is this sweater does not have short rows. So the back neck, you're building the sweater, your beginning of round is at the back, the center back of the sweater, which actually works really well. Sometimes that doesn't work, but it actually works okay. And if the brioche needs to be blocked, as you guys can see, but it's not bad. I'm pulling it the wrong way because of the camera. Hang on, this way, there we go. but this needs to be lifted up. This needs to be kind of more like up here, and there needed to be some short rows in here before starting the brioche section, and it just would have lifted up the back of the sweater. Instead, what's going to happen is it's going to kind of wear as more of like a slightly gentle, relaxed neck, and that's okay. But if I had known, I would have added some short rows here. The other thing that's really cool about this pattern that I really like, and I'm not sure you guys will be able to see, this is actually a turned hem. So you knit your 2x2 rib. You cast on using a provisional cast on, and then you knit your 2x2 rib. And when you're finished knitting your 2x2 rib, you actually fold it in half and you do knit 2 togethers all the way around. And it creates just this lovely, cozy neck. In our climate, I was a bit like, I don't know, that seems a bit warm. I don't know if that'll work on me. It's actually really pretty. I really like it. And even though you've got the 2x2 hem down here, I know it's black and you can't see it because black, and it's not a turned hem. It works. You don't need that big thick hem at the bottom. I did lengthen this as well. I added 2 inches. I think in the pattern she has you cast off at, I feel like it's 13 inches. If that was the case on me, it would only come to about here, which is right at the top of my hip bone. And I prefer my sweaters to come a little bit longer than that, just so that I can move around and lean over and all that kind of stuff. So this is a little bit longer. I think I cast off at about 14 and a half, almost 15 inches. 15 inches seems to be like my good spot. So let me show you the original yarn. I did buy one thing while we were away. We were staying at Surf Grove and I did get a bag. I really wanted it. They had these great sweatshirts, but they were well over $100. And I was like, I'm knitting a sweater. Why do I need a sweatshirt? I don't need a sweatshirt. So let me show you the yarn though. Because I loved the yarn that was in my stash. This was just deep stash. So this was an organic Polworth that I got from Smith & U back in, I want to say, I think I spun it quite quickly after I bought it. I think I bought it at Knit City or Fibers West or something. I think it was Fibers West. Because Marianne doesn't usually go to Knit City because the booth cost is quite significant. But she has been in the past at Fibers West. I haven't seen her the last couple of years, and I didn't go to Fibers West this year. But I sat down and started spinning this immediately, and this is a 3-ply. So I divided the braid. It was very analogous, very easy to work with, very homogeneous, very soft colors. I divided it in 3 and I just spun. It's actually not analogous because yellow and green are not necessarily that close to each other on the color wheel in terms of like if you're only choosing 2 or 3 colors right next to each other. Because there's that kind of purpley lavender in there too. So all 3 primary colors are in this. So this actually isn't analogous, but it's very homogeneous and very subtle, very quiet. So this was the yarn that ended up working for the contrast color of this particular sweater, and I'm really happy with it. It definitely needs to be blocked. That brioche needs a chance to, like, it needs a good block. So very, very lovely colors. Yeah, that's right, Rebecca. They're desaturated, exactly. I don't know why this is flipping so fast. Usually this slideshow doesn't go that quickly. I'll have to check the timing on that. Anyways, thank you for listening to me wax poetic about all of the things. I really appreciate that, you guys. I know Christine says she's a fan of ribbon around necklines for stability and covering seams. Yes, I haven't done that recently because I haven't done any steeks or anything, but I think in the future that's definitely something. I really want to learn how to machine knit. I think that'll really help just in general. Rebecca's, the hoodie that I wanted to get, was it organic cotton hand spun by Buddhist monks? I know, totally. It's just capitalizing on yeah, being in a place where people feel pressured because they're not going to be able to get it anywhere else, right? Ugh, it's so hard. Yeah, machine knitting in your future. Yeah, Rebecca, we'll have to talk about that this summer. All right, The show's getting long, as it always does, so let's get into community participation and then we'll finish up for today. I realized when I was having a sip of my drink that you guys could probably hear the tinking of the glass in the background. I was like, well, that's not gonna work. I gotta mute myself. All right, so we've got, this is old. I put together this particular PowerPoint quite a few weeks ago and we haven't been able to get to it. I tried to record it separately so that I could upload it separately and have it as a separate thing. Time, you guys, time has been a big issue. So, and just getting into the office and doing some work. So, this stuff that you guys posted is from a while ago, and I'm hoping that for next show we can kind of catch up a little bit. So just bear with me a little bit. So somebody had posted this in the Slack channel, and let me just move myself because I realized I'm kind of in the way, and I'll move myself back in just a sec. A woman cannot survive on books alone. She also needs yarn, a lot of yarn. That's definitely how I feel. I'm reading a book right now called, I can't even remember what it's called. Good Actually. It's a Canadian novel. It's her debut novel, and she's a writer. She's written on the CBC show Schitt's Creek. If you guys haven't watched that and you want some really good Canadiana comedy, it is very, very funny. If you find some of the stuff, like some of the British stuff funny, if you find British humor funny, you'll find Schitt's Creek funny. It is hilarious. It's SCHITT' Creek. And it's about this family who are multimillionaires and are really super wealthy, and they lose everything and they end up in a motel, running this motel. And oh, sweet mother of pearl, it is so flippin' funny. You'll probably recognize a couple of the actors and actresses in it because they're very famous, like in general, not just in Canada. Anyhow, this author was one of the writers for Schitt's Creek. So because that show was so funny, I picked up the book in Tofino in the bookshop. And I usually don't buy books on a whim. I usually go in looking for specific books. Anyways, it's very funny. It's really written for that reader who's kind of like on the border of sort of being a millennial and an elder millennial. So those of us who are kind of born in the mid to sort of the early to mid 80s kind of thing. It's very, very funny. I don't think my mom would find it funny. And I don't think that somebody younger than me would find it funny, like who's maybe like around 20, because they wouldn't get some of the jokes, like some of the colloquialisms that was very, very much a part of growing up in the 90s. And anyways, very, very funny. I'll try and figure out what it's called and I'll throw it into the next Ketchup and Pickles. But the author is obviously very funny. So yeah, books and yarn, you guys, books and yarn. And in our case, books, yarn, and fiber. That's what we need. All right, we've been working on our year of yarn. I talked about this earlier in the show already about the yarn designs, our book study on the Book of Yarn Designs by Sarah Anderson. So here's some stuff that you guys have been working on, and I need to move myself back up because then I'll be in the way otherwise. This is from Pauline. More sampling. The left is short forward and the right sample is continuous back. Isn't that incredible how different they look? The right sample was really underplied and she was going to reply it. But what I wanted to show about and why I included this in today's slideshow was how different the different results that we can get. And often with short forward, we do tend to end up amassing a lot more twist in our yarns. And so if you're having difficulty with over twisted, over spun yarns, maybe just change up your draft a little bit and just see what else you can create to get a little bit more air in there. Or if you're not getting enough air or if you're not getting enough twist and you're finding that your yarns are underspun, maybe give some of these more worsted drafts, short forward or short back, a try and see what happens. Yeah. This is from Tina. Thank you, Christine, for thanks you guys for throwing in about that show. That show, Eugene Levy was one of the writers, and so was his son. And I can't remember his son's name off the top of my head, but they won just a ton of awards for that show as well, both in Canada and the States. This is from Tina. These are 2 samples of my default. So the blue was spun in February 2023 and it's a 3-ply. And then the red she spun on Saturday, just like recently in the last month, and it's a 2-ply. And she's spinning sort of about 12 to 14 wraps per inch as a default, which is wonderful. This is a really good example of sort of what happens with people's default is you sort of end up in this sort of medium yarn with a medium twist and a medium fiber. That is sort of default yarn. And this was a really good example of what that looks like when it's spun as a 3-ply versus a 2-ply. And you can see how the 3-ply is just that much rounder and that much slightly plumper, whereas the 2-ply is a little bit flatter, a little bit more oval. Those plies are kind of sitting next to each other, and those are the differences that we see in 2-ply versus multi-ply yarns, and it's cool to see side by side. This is from Diana. Small sampling of what I seem to be defaulting to lately. There is a lot of fingering in my spinning these days. So she's got lots of fingering weight yarns. She's generally going with a 2-ply, but she's working on improving her chain ply, which is that skein on the far right. Typically draft short forward on my Lundrum. You know, it's funny, I was spinning on my Lundrum the other day doing some sampling and stuff, getting ready for filming at Sweet Georgia this past Monday, this past Friday, just 4 days ago. And I was kind of defaulting to short forward with my Lundrum, and I know that the reason for that is because I want that twist. Because if I do continuous back on my Lundrum, the ratios aren't high enough and there isn't enough twist and my yarns are underspun. So this made me think of that. I was like, oh yeah, I am kind of defaulting to this sort of short forward. Yeah. Oh, David Tennant is one of my favorite actors of all time. I am a Doctor Who fan, and I just think he's wonderful. And yeah, Rebecca mentioned about an interview with him and Dan Levy, which is Eugene Levy's son. Thank you guys for helping me out with the names. And I could just see those two just getting along like a house on fire. Yeah. All right, 100 days of spindling. This is all finished now because I put this together right at the end of the 100 days, which was the last day was March 10th. But because we didn't get to this in the podcast back in March, we're just getting to it now. So this is from Lisa, spinning after my class today using a mixture of Shetland bamboo and Angora bunny named Bilbo, which I think is hilarious, on my bobbin spindles from the Dancing Goats. I just love the look of those bobbins. I would love to get one of them. They're just so cool. Oh, Rebecca, thank you for the recommendation. So there's a podcast. David Tennant does a podcast with ... bestest. Okay, good to know. Oh, I'll look at that later. Oh, now I'm all excited. I love finding new podcasts. This is from Dania, my recent spin on my new supported spindle. Thank you to Elizabeth. There's been some people sending spindles to each other on the hashtag marketplace channel on the Slack channel because people have bought stuff they're not super keen on, passed it on to someone else. They love it. That's just wonderful. And this is it's not a glass spin. I don't think it's a Mingo and Asho, but it's something similar. Just beautiful fiber and spinning, Dania. Beautiful. This is from Diana, a different Diana. This is from Diana Twist. One of the things I decided to do in 100 Days of Spindle Spinning Challenge is to see how full I can get each spindle. This one is Carry Cherry. It has a lot of yarn on it and can probably take even more. The weight of the yarn is allowing it to spin longer and longer. So the Carry Cherry spindles in general tend to be a bit lighter, and as you add more and more fiber to it, of course, it weighs it down and gives you that longer spin time. The moment will come when it's too heavy to flick with comfort, but for now it's a gem. And beautiful spinning, Diana. Lovely to see. And this is from Dion, this color, Dion. I finished spinning my Coopworth in silk, and I think she's actually already got this plied up because she was sharing it one day on one of our Zooms. But I could be wrong. I'm getting very confused because it's been such a crazy month, and there's been so much ping, like lots of things happening. And now I'm not sure what was shared, what I thought about in my head that I thought was shared, and what wasn't actually shared. This is from Laura. I started a new project for the 100-day challenge. I'm quite proud of myself for all the spinning. And I got a Kainu gray fleece a couple of years ago. So it's a fin from Finland. I spun a bunch of Kainu back in the fall. It's a very rare Finnish breed of from Finland. How many times can I say Finnish, and Finland in one paragraph? I'm spinning it on my Bjorn Peck spindles and maybe some others, but these are my favorites. There's 280 grams of carded fiber. Let's see how many meters of yarn I can make. So she finished the first skein of 2-ply. It's about 50 grams and 300 meters. That's amazing. So I'll have enough for a large shawl or a lacy sweater. Beautiful. Gorgeous. And then we've got some general makes and shares that you guys have been working on. This is from Megan. Here is Marie Wallen number 2 for my giant hand spun color wheel. So she started working on this color wheel at the beginning of our year of color, a year and a half now ago. And she's been making sweaters from these skeins of hand spun kind of colorway, like this color wheel that she did out of hand spun. The colors are from John Arbin. The dark brown is a blend of Coopworth and Bast bamboo at 70-30 that she did on the drum carder. And I would love to hear, Megan, if you're watching this later, because you're at work right now, whether or not that feels planty or if it just feels about right, and if you still have that wool-like quality with the 70% Coopworth. It makes it very drapey, changed to top down and added short rows at the neck. Yesterday was 60 Fahrenheit, then today woke up to 3 inches of snow, so it's the perfect chance to wear it. It's beautiful, Megan. I love it with that skirt, or maybe those are pants. Great color combination, just beautiful. I die. Amazing work, Megan. Yes, 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 yes. This is from Kaylee. I love this sweater so much. I hope you wear this to death, Kaylee. This made me think of what I'm wearing, my field day. Just, you nailed it with the striping on this one. Finished my first hand spun sweater. This is her first sweater. That's amazing. I cast this on early 2022 before getting pregnant with my daughter. That pregnancy put a pause on all creative things in my life for the majority of a year, and I'm so glad it's finally done and it fits well. It's Cozy Classic Raglan by Jessie Maid. I love Jessie Maid's patterns. They are great and they're incredibly size inclusive. It was a great pattern that was easily adapted for hand spun. Beautiful. This is from Eveline. Finished a t-shirt spin. I bought these 2 braids in January. Finished plying on Leap Day. That's pretty fun. Fiber is 70% BFL, 30% C-cell. So you'll have to tell us, Eveline, how this feels, if it feels planty or not. That sort of, you know, that feeling that you get when the fiber is like getting, you're losing some of those qualities that we expect with wool, and the closer it gets to 50-50, the more that other fiber takes over. She does say that pre-drafting helped and it gave the wool a nice shine. She ended up with 600 meters of fingering weight yarn. It was a fractal. And now I'm looking for t-shirt patterns to make a light summer topped. If you haven't settled on anything, Eveline, I've been looking at one that's by Haley Smedley, because this kind of gave me, like, now I want to knit another one of her patterns. There's one that's made out of cotton. I think it has a round neck and short sleeves. If you have yardage, that would be super cute because it's just stockinette. And with the fingering weight, I think you'd have the right gauge. Yeah, not planty at all. That's great. Oh, that's awesome. Beautiful spinning. This is from Pauline. Just finished knitting these socks, Farmer's Daughter Fiber Sock Squad from February. I love these colors, Pauline. You always pick colors that I love. And I noticed how the aquamarine changes when it's surrounded by the citrine, or the yellow, and the purple. I'm starting to lose my voice. Can you guys tell? This is from Florence. I love this amount of fiber prep, Florence. I just love it. This is a bin full of beauty, a crimpy, grippy, slightly rustic mongrel and lamb and glorious alpaca from a black plastic bag. I just love what you guys post sometimes. All gifted fiber. I'm aiming at a substitute for Alice Starmore's 3-ply. The small skein on the left doesn't have any lamb, and I may wind the ply twist of the skein on the right back a little bit once I knit with it. Beautiful sampling though, Florence. And those two yarns, regardless of what you decide to do, both yarns are just beautiful. Oh, cool. So Pauline was saying that this is actually a monthly subscription where she gets she didn't pick the colors, but I have noticed, Pauline, that a lot of the colors that you do work with are colors that I like. I've noticed. It's funny how some people work a lot in natural shades, so then I'm drawn to that because I love the natural shades like this, and then others, you know, tend to just navigate towards colors that I like, and I'm definitely, I sort of navigate as well to that. First skein of my Jacob fleece project that I have been working on during the fiber prep Zooms. This is awesome, Suzanne. So I had sampled before to determine whether I wanted to spin from combed nests or hand carded roll legs. The roll legs won the day, and this skein was spun from 20 roll legs to make a 2-ply. It is only about 120 yards of fingering weight yarn, so I have a long road ahead of prep ahead of me, but I'm loving the results, and I wanted a yarn that was similar to Jameson Spindrift, and I'm pleased with how close I came with this Jacob. Beautiful. Yeah, it looks exactly like undyed Spindrift. That's exactly what it looks like, Suzanne. Nailed it. Beautiful. I love the color. Love the color. That natural gray. Oh, this is another just crush-worthy spin and sweater knit. This is from Robin, my latest sweater from the Raw Local Fleece to Finish project. It's Gotland from Miss Venus Williams of nearby Hidden Hill Farm. Gotland is my new obsession. It's kind of like mohair from an elderly goat. Very shiny and hairy, quite heavy. Not exactly wiry, but definitely towards that end of the scale. I think it would be too prickly to wear next to the skin, but for a cardigan like this one, worn with something underneath, it is the height of coziness. It looks great on you, Robin, as well. You did a great job. I love that pewter gray, almost metallic with the gloss of this hardy long wool breed, which is originally from Sweden, and it gets shorn twice yearly, so the staple length is manageable in drum cards very well. Beautiful. And I think she drafted this pattern herself too. I'm pretty sure this is her own pattern. Beautiful. Rebecca, our very own. How funny, I recently finished a Gotland dominated sweater as well. There is BFL2. The yoke is made from the breed and color study from spring of 2017. This was the breed and color study that kind of started everything, because Katrina dyed up the Gotland, and it was based on a photo that I think Joe submitted, if my memory is correct, and it was of pansies, and there's purple and green in the photo. There was some yellow from the inside of the flower. And after Katrina did all of that and carded up all the Gotland and sort of had it all sent out, Rebecca approached me and said, hey, I wonder if it would be worthwhile as like making the learning experience richer by also dyeing all of these colors on BFL, because BFL is generally white. And then people can compare, because a lot of the color was lost on the Gotland. And that was kind of the beginning of breed and color study, getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger in terms of what we were looking at, what we were studying, and what we were learning. So this is very cool to see kind of the fruition of that, and all these years later to come back to that 2017 breed and color study and to see these colors pop up again. It's very cool. This sweater is a heavily modified version of Kate Davies' puffin sweater from Colors of Shetland. Beautiful, Rebecca. Absolutely gorgeous. I love this. This is from Malin. Okay, there's a bit of a story about this. So this pattern, the Emotional Support Chicken, which is trademarked, has been a little bit viral on Ravelry. And so when you check the top pattern searches, if you are somebody that uses Ravelry, this pattern comes up on that first page, or at least it was. I don't know if it still is. And I showed it to the kids because James will every so often, not all the time anymore, but for a while there, he would come up with one of his stuffies and he would like be hugging it. He'd be like, it's my emotional support animal. And I have no idea where he got it from. I think it was just something he heard somewhere on a cartoon or a TV show or something that was said at school. But he would hold this stuffy and he'd be like, it's my emotional support animal. You can't take it away. And it kind of has become a bit of a joke in our family about this like needing an emotional emotional support animal. And sometimes I'll grab the kids and I'll be like, I need an emotional support animal. And I'll grab one of the kids and like hold them and I won't let them go. And in like a joking way, not in a mean way. And so then when this emotional support chicken came up, I just about died of laughter. So when Malin posted this on the Slack channel, a part of me inside was like having a party and the other part of me was like dying. It was just, so I love this. I'm probably going to make one of these this summer with a whole bunch of just stashed, like leftovers of hand spun. Just make it as crazy as I possibly can. And I just love that you guys started making these. So really fun, really nice way to use up random bits of hand spun that didn't really match anything else. The yarn I used was mostly 2-ply from random bags of bits of fiber from hedgehog fibers. I just, oh my goodness gracious, I just love these. I think this one, Malin, your other one is amazing, but I love this one with the brown and the cream and the purple head. I died inside. Oh, I love this. This is her other one that she made. I love the hot pink around the neck. I was so tempted to make one of these for each of the kids. I'm still very tempted. I even showed my mom these and she was just like, oh, she loved them. So I might have to buy the pattern. Even if I never make one, I might have to buy the pattern just to support the designer because I think this is amazing. I just love them. And then Sarah made one. My husband called her Camilla. I think these are so freaking funny. In addition to being my hand spun, she also has a sachet of lavender inside her, which I thought was a great idea. I thought that was wonderful. You could even do like a little, you could do a little pocket in the bottom with a button so you could open it and change it out. But like you could put a little potpourri in there, a little sachet of potpourri. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, Eve, we're going to have to do a summer knit along. So, Dion says, do it for the kids. Totally. Yes, Christine says, I assume that was what the knitted emotional support chicken stemmed from. People insisting that their ferret, their snake, whatever, was an emotional support animal. Absolutely, Christine. That's totally where it came from. Chicken knit along. Yes. Hashtag chicken knit along 2024. Let's do it. Yes, I want an emotional support couch dragon. Oh, I just think that's wonderful. You guys are the best. Yeah, I agree, Pauline. Bring it on. Yeah, let's do emotional chicken. What are they called? An emotional support chicken. Let's do an emotional support animal along. So we'll do something like that in the summer. Stuff going on at our house besides Tofino. We were at the Whitecaps home opener and we do have tickets to the Lionel Messi Whitecaps game. He's coming, I think it's, when's the game? It's coming up. Anyways, we do have tickets for it. We took the kids to the home opener Whitecaps. You guys know that we're big fans. And then this was really cool. And this was part of the reason why I wanted to share this with you. So James had this entrepreneur fair thing. And I don't know if I told you guys about this already, but I feel like I maybe shared a photo somewhere. But he got to do, they had to make something and they weren't allowed to make something that was, they weren't allowed to make drinks to sell and they weren't allowed to make food to sell. Anyways, he made a whole bunch of polymer clay earrings. And actually, if you guys hang on 2 seconds, he made these all by himself. I'll go to the bigger camera for just a sec. He made these, let me get rid of that. All by himself, these earrings. And he decimated my jewelry stash. Like, honestly, you guys, he decimated it. However, he was really, really successful. He did a great job. These ones have gold chain on them. Some of the kids really didn't do well, and you could really tell that they really hadn't put a lot of time and effort into it. He spent hours on this project, putting it together, organizing it. He sold a ton. He came home with tons of gaps on his whiteboard there. And I was just really, really proud of him. It was really, really cool. And yeah, he did an awesome job. So he does have quite a few left over. He has about a dozen left over. He made well over 30. He actually earned the most of all of the kids in his class, which is kind of cool. He was kind of a little bit like, you know, but he's, with the cost of his stamp and everything, he's asking for $5 Canadian for them. If anybody would like a pair, you have to be able to wear like sort of earrings. Like, you can't have highly sensitive ears. These aren't hypoallergenic earring posts. But if anybody would like a pair, I can actually put them in an envelope and mail them. Just get in touch, because he does have quite a few still for sale, and I'll put up a photo of the ones that are still available. I'll kind of organize them, and I'll put them up, and I'll label them like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you guys can tell me which ones you want, like number 3 or number 4 or whatever. And yeah, I told him, I didn't tell him, I told him that I would let you guys know that he still had some, and I know he would be pleased as punch. So yeah, I was really proud of him. He put in a huge amount of work, and you could tell based on some of the other projects there that kids had done stuff like the weekend prior. The fair was on the Wednesday, and you could tell kids had just thrown stuff together on the Sunday. And yeah, he pitched it as like Mother's Day gifts. So like, get your gifts for Mother's Day, you know, to like the other kids and moms that were walking by, you know, treat yourself for Mother's Day. So yeah, I won't forget the stamp, Eve, I promise. So yeah. Actually, it's funny, Rebecca, because he initially only wanted like $2, and I was like, no. Like, just the jump rings and the time and the earrings themselves. I'm like, slow down. We've got to actually look at your costs here. And then he came up with, at the fair, he was asking $4. And so I told him with the stamp and everything, we would bump it up to $5. He is saving for something. So he's actually hoping eventually, it's a big kind of thing that he's working on. He really wants to eventually get a gaming computer, and he knows that it's going to cost well over $2,000 or $3,000. And Mike's kind of shown him what the options are for sort of like 2 or 3 years from now. And he's just been slowly he socks everything away that he can. And who knows, in a couple of years, if maybe that'll change. But right now, for the last 2 years, he's been saving everything so that to work toward that big goal. So I'm proud of him. How could you not be? And then there was a huge tournament at the end of this the soccer season. Soccer here goes from September to March, and then we get 2 weeks off, and we start again at the beginning of April, and we go through till the end of June. My mother-in-law still can't believe that we play year-round here, but we do. And Nora got MVP in the tournament for her age group, and James's team won their group. So they won every single game, and they took home medals, which is really cool. So, oh, no way, Dion, we're gonna have to talk to you. Her son builds gaming computers. We will have to have a conversation. Mike builds all of our stuff and builds our computers, but he doesn't want to build a gaming laptop for James. So he said we'd have to, he already knows what he wants to get James at this time, but in a couple of years things will change. So we'll have to talk to you, Dion. Thank you again, you guys, for sharing everything that you do, and for participating in our community, and for making it richer, because you are here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much for your participation, and for sharing what you do, sharing what you make, encouraging one another, being supportive of one another. We all come from such different walks of life and live all over the world, and we can come here and everybody treats everyone so well and with so much love and kindness, and I see that, and I just want to acknowledge that and say thank you. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes you're tired and you're grumpy and you just want somebody to listen, and you know, the fact that everybody shows up is really a testament to the caliber of people that we have in this community. So thank you so much. I hope that you have a wonderful couple of weeks. Next Tuesday will be, Rebecca will be front and center on the Wool Circle, and then I'll be back with you the week after. So I hope you guys have a wonderful couple of weeks. I hope it's not too rainy where you are. We've got rain in the forecast. So I hope that that's not what you're dealing with. I find this time of year a bit hard. April is my least favorite month because of the amount of rain that we get. But hopefully it won't be too bad this year. Nora is playing a lot of soccer this spring. James obviously is as well, but Nora's got an inordinate amount. For those who follow sort of what's going on here, Nora made the competitive Div 1A team for the spring. So now we're into tiered division play. So the girls were redistributed, and there was a lot of upheaval in March. People were really upset, obviously. It's hard when you go through stuff like that. And she's also been asked to play a year up on the competitive 1A team to help them out for games and go to some of their practices and whatnot to give them a hand, because they don't have a full roster every weekend. So really exciting stuff for her, and they're asking her for her by name, which is incredible. But a lot of pressure, and we're very aware of not burning her out and making sure that she's protected, that if she's feeling like it's too much, that we pull back. No questions asked, we just pull back. And so far she's been really fired up and excited about it, but I do worry about the pressure. So we have a lot of very challenging conversations in the evenings, usually, about sort of balancing and finding that balance and taking things off our plates and what that looks like. So anybody who's had kids in competitive sports, I know that you see me and you understand, and you guys have been there, and I really appreciate your love and support and kindness as well. So I hope you guys have a wonderful couple of weeks. Have a great weekend. I will see you guys next time, same time, same place. Thank you, you guys. It's very kind. Hope she has an awesome time. Mama and Papa Bear watching. Yes, totally. As kids grow up, there are the conversations that come with it. You guys are so right. And thank you for the support. One last thing. I had mentioned last show that there were some difficult conversations with James back. I won't rehash it, but I had just kind of mentioned in passing, like, you know, that there were some kids at school and some exposure to some stuff. And there was a couple of you that reached out after the podcast and just sent like really kind notes and say, like, just, you know, hang in there, and, you know, we've been there. And I just thank you for doing that. That was really kind. I really appreciated that. And I knew that part of what we really needed was just to get away and regroup. And we've been playing a brand new tabletop game that Mike had supported the Kickstarter for. If anybody is into tabletop games, this one is called Adventure Tactics Domian's Domain. No, what's it called? Adventure Tactics. Anyhow, it's phenomenal. I will post links to that in the show notes later. And that was exactly what we needed. So have a wonderful couple weeks. I've said it like a million times, but I really am going this time. I will talk to you guys soon. Bye, everyone.